Hello, everybody. My name is Krishan Hopkins. I'm an instructional technology specialist from Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. And in this tech talk, I'll be talking about StoryJumper. It's a book creator, it's a book publisher. It's kind of interesting. So I'd love to be able to introduce this to anybody that is interested in a tool like this. I'm also being joined here with my colleague. I'll give him an opportunity for him to introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Bernhardt. I'm the technology director for OPSRC. Kashan and I make up the technology team here, and we're here to help in any way you need. Just reach out to us.
Yeah. And a good way to reach out to us would be through our email. You can do so through techteam@opsrc.net. I have it up there on the screen. Additionally, if you want access to the slides that I'm working on right now, whether you're watching live or through the recording, you can do so either one of two ways, either through the slides over here, which I have a little link, which I'll read out since it's case sensitive. So that's lowercase t, period, ly/P, number 1, uppercase C, uppercase M. Or you could stop on by opsrc.net/TechTalks. If you go there, let's stop by there for a moment. I think it'll be worth our time to go there. You get to see our upcoming Tech Talks. So we got StoryJumper, ReadWorks. I've been doing in the middle of like a series over literacy. And so I thought I would pick out these tools here. So really excited to jump into those. If you have a suggestion, we have a tool, we have a button for that. So either tech topics or tools. Or you could jump down there into the archive Tech Talks. I think that takes up the majority of this page. We have different topics such as technology standards, tech integration models, special interest topics that I've been doing. I'd love to revisit this. And of course, individual tech tools where you see a bunch of them on here. I think there's over 40 at this point. I want to say this is the 42nd one, maybe I'll count it later. But yeah, if you have an opportunity, if you like what I do here, check out the other tools that I've done in the series, the Book Creator Revisited, EduBlogs, teaching books. I think they're all good tools in supporting literacy. In particular, Book Creator, because as I was working through StoryJumper, there's a lot of connections that can be made between either one of those. And I think it really, there are similar tools, but I think it really boils down to the features and the interface, which I'll jump into in a little bit here. But notice that each one of these has a video recording, which we're recording one right now, and some slides with relevant resources. So check them out. All that stuff is there. It's free. You can access all that. But what I would really like to jump into is an example on what is possible with StoryJumper here. So I'm going to pull up an example by a student named Joanna Baker here. She's published her book to be public. And so you can kind of see what is possible on here. One thing to keep in mind is that whenever you have an account, you can create the books for free and you can share the books for free. But if you want to download a fresh copy, you do have to pay for it. They do have like publishing features, so you could get a physical version of these books, which is really interesting. But note, before I even jump in the book itself, on the right-hand side, there's the ability to like a book, comment on the book. I think you can see other books this person has made and comments below. And so one of the things that's really nice is that this has this sort of built-in community features attached to the books themselves. So if students do want to publish their books, they're very welcome to do so. And one thing that's really nice is you see this cover over here, and I noticed right below the cover is a play symbol. So let's play a little bit of this.
Little Bear is Stuck at Home, read by the author Joanna Baker.
And just imagine a book, like a student creating their book, putting all this work in there, having it out there, and just being able to celebrate student works and seeing and having it just exposed to an audience, which is really cool.
This is to all the people who are quarantined and miss their friends and family like me. For a fun game, try finding the red heart and the ant on each page.
Also below each book themselves, they also have tags attached to them. So these are associated with these different collections. So if you like books like these, you can jump into other ones. And so I won't go through the entire book, but just to give you an idea of what's going on here, we got a simple interface. Now we got some text, we got some characters on there. Quite nice. And it's just, you know, simple text and illustration, just like you would find inside of a children's book here. So real cool. And I'll show you how to jump in there. We'll talk about a couple of features in a minute. But let's talk about some structural stuff for this Tech Talk, just in case it might be your first time here, or this first time exposed to this tool. I want to make sure that everybody gets what they need out of this Tech Talk. So first, my objective, what we're learning is after this Tech Talk, educators will be able to integrate StoryJumper in their classroom to help students achieve their learning goals and boost their literacy. Trying to make sure that even though we're learning this tool, we're trying to make sure that all of this is going to be student focused. Ideally, you want to be able to put these tools in their hands and then try to get the most out of, you know, just creating and developing a story and figuring out like what parts do they have to create for that. And I think there's a lot of really great resources for making those books. A basic schedule of what's going on here is first, I'm going to spend a lot of my time, majority of my time is going to be spent on the first step, which is tool overview, answer a few questions, and then the showcase, how to jump in, make a couple of those first steps. After that, I will talk a little bit about integrating technology. I always like to have this piece a part of my technology talks. Because I believe it gives us a plan for success, and it gets the most out of tools whenever we try to approach how we're going to integrate that technology. Then I'm going to take those first two steps, combine them together, and invite you to imagine, if you haven't done so at that point already, what this tool might look like in your classroom. What are what's the things that you can do to boost what's going on in your classroom already? So that will be the tool application section. And then finally, we'll wrap up here. I'll share some resources. I'll shower you with my appreciation. And then you can watch my other 40 Tech Talks. I would love you to do that. That would be great. But for right now, let's talk about StoryJumper. So first of all, an overview. Let me share a definition real quick. A tool for creating and publishing books. Simple as that. A couple of features that I do want to point out. It does have simple click and drag page editing. Just kind of personal commentary on it. It isn't like the most up-to-date type of interface. You'll see that it's really super simplistic, which depending on your audience, that might be an actual boon on there. So I think I'll show you around a little bit. The showcase will show that, and you can kind of make the judgment yourself whether you think it's a good fit for your students. It has a Google Classroom integration. It's real nice. Like as soon as you sign up for the account, right up the front, they're like, hey, do you have a classroom? Cool. Do you want to log this stuff in? Awesome. You want to put your rosters in there for your students so they already have accounts, so you don't have to create anything extra? Great. And they put all of that, boom, 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 right at the very front of the login process. So a lot of that stuff they will guide you through step by step, which is really nice. Speaking of step by step, they do have a wonderful teacher's guide. I put it inside of the resources, but yeah, if this is the first time that you've ever done anything like this, you're just like, I think this would be a good fit for my students. It will have you go through each step, and they also have some videos attached to a couple of the main steps, like you know, connecting your Google Classroom to your student, to your StoryJumper account. So real nice that you can do that. One other thing that's really great, which I illustrated at the very beginning of the Tech Talk, is there is a library of self-published books by students out there. It's a nice little catalog in there. It's really cool to see what students have come up with, how they've used this tool in a bunch of cool ways. Like you can sort of, there's a character creator option that I'll show off a little bit that I think is really cool. There is little library of resources that you can pull little props onto your canvas space for your pages, for your books. And so it's nice to see what people can do with one tool in a bunch of different ways. And then finally, I just want to make sure that you know about this restriction up front. You can publish the books for free. You can get an embed code. You can share a link, no problem. You can look at those books if they're set to the public viewing. However, if you want a personal copy to keep, got to pay for it, unfortunately. And they do have a printing surface, which is really interesting. It's a little costly, but I mean, in terms of having a published book, it's not bad. So you can make those judgments yourself. But I think now it is time to look at the tool itself. So let's jump into StoryJumper.com. That is our link that will get us access there. Let's jump in there. Cool. All right. So taking a look at this, we're at the front page of StoryJumper.com. Does a pretty good job of showing you some of the features on here. So if you have some time, I think it's worth taking a look up here. But before I log in, I do want to point out here, top left-hand corner where it says teachers. If you click on that, it will give you a little bit of a guide. It highlights a couple of features specific to education. Like, for example, the very first link, Discover Writing Projects, has a little tiny like search engine for project ideas, which I think is great. You can filter it down to a particular subject. So if you're teaching math in 6th through 8th grade, it gives you ideas for math word problems. It gives you an idea for informal writing. It gives you an idea for lesson plans. So pretty cool that it has some of that stuff already built in there for subjects, different grades as well. Another thing that I want to point out on the teachers page is the teacher's guide. I've already mentioned it, so I won't go fully into detail, but you can see that, you know, you have the different steps here. There's a handful of them, but it just walks you through every single step and gives you an idea. And it has like 2 paths attached to it. There's one if you're already using Google Classroom and you can import that stuff in there. Ideal if you have that stuff already set up, it's much easier. However, the instructions do branch off. If you aren't affiliated with Google Classroom, perfectly fine. It guides you through those steps to create your own classroom inside of the tool itself. So great stuff. Okay, there's more features on here, but I just want to jump in and log in and show you how to create a book here. So I'm going to go to the top right-hand corner. I'm going to click on login. For first-time users, you want to do sign up. And you can do so through your either a Google or a Facebook account. I got my Google one set up, so let me just sign on in there. And we're off to the races. Now, one thing that I can't show you here, because it happened to me the first time when I logged in, is it asked me, it asked me if I was a teacher, which of course you want to say yes if you're going to use the educator features of this. And then it asked me if I wanted to import my Google Classroom, which you can see up here. I already have my classrooms in here. It's really nice that it has this set up, because if I go and click on any one of these classes that I have set up, I have this own like separated design space. This is kind of like folders, and inside of each classroom, you know, you have the ability to share your books publicly. You have the choice to publish your own student books. It has all those resources I was talking about before, like the projects, this teacher guide. It even includes tutorial videos as well. So if you're lost, you can do it through here. You can even click create classroom assignments, and you can select the class, and it gives the directions on how students can go into Google Classroom. They look at the instructions and then they just follow it step by step so they can start creating their book. So quite nice if your students are already familiar with Google Classroom and you're trying to introduce them into how to use StoryJumper in here. Moreover, there's a couple of tabs specific to the classrooms themselves. If you click books, that's where the student books will go, on which they are attached to your classroom, or you can click on people, which you can use to add co-teachers, or you could add additional students. But if you use the Google Classroom integration, students can just log in with the same information that they have from the classroom. So it's really an easy jump if you have all of that connected together. I'm going to go to the top left-hand corner and go to home to go back. So if you don't set up Google Classroom initially, when you first set up your account, if you click on import Google Classroom right next to the My Classes button, it will start you through that process. It's very straightforward. You just kind of click it on there and you adjust your roster and you're off to the races. Let's see. While I got the time, I do want to point out top left-hand corner, right next to the home button is the library button. This was also accessible if you logged out, so you don't really have to log in to view any books. All of them are public here, but I just want to point it out because I think this is also really great resources. This is a really great resource to generate ideas and see what's up there. Right from the get-go, they have these very wonderful filters So you could filter it down to books that have audio portions attached to it, or books by particular subjects. You know, students, you know, they love themselves some Minecraft. So we got a Minecraft filter on here. You can do it by grade of the student that created the book, which is pretty cool. We have different collections. They even have different languages, which is really nice to have that accessibility portion attached to it. But if you scroll down, you have the library, which is filled with wonderful books, and you can see right up on the book name itself whether or not it's narrated, which is really great, once again, for accessibility purposes, but also helping out that literacy as well, especially for those English learners. You can see on the bottom of the books that you have the authors, which you can actually click on, and you can see who's created these books. They have a nice little profile set up, so really awesome. And just imagine your students being able to publish their books, put it out there, and then people will be able to say like, oh man, I did this thing, it has me attached to it. And it just like developing that sense of pride and confidence in the work that they're doing, I think is already built into this. But yeah, if you want to look at any book, you just click on them. You get the same interface that I showed you before. You could even buy the books if you want to. So it's really easy to be able to go through and cycle through and see what's available in any one of these books in the library. Oh, nice, I got like an ABC situation going on here. This is great. Hey, and these books are easy to share. You just click the share button over there. You can dump them into your classroom. You can share a direct link. You can even use an embed code if you want to put it on a website. So lots of ways to use these books right from the get-go without even having to log in. Although it's nice if you want to create your own stuff, it's nice to log in. But if you just want to use the library, that is perfectly fine. Lots of stuff out here. But now I think it is time to finally create our book. I'm going to scroll down a little bit to the My Books section and then click Create Book. From here, I'll pick the type on here. These are just basic little templates, which are really nice. It gives you something good to start with in terms of pages, but I'm just going to click the blank section here so we start as clean as possible. One of the things, while this is loading, one of the things that it does ask you to do as an educator, once you click that you're a teacher on the account, is that it will ask you to create a sample book for your students, which I think is a great idea in terms of just modeling and showing students like what's possible, what are some things you can do. And depending on how involved that you might want to be, you could just put the tool, you could say like, hey, here's the book, here's what it could look like, here's the tool, play around with it a little bit. And I highly recommend that when it comes to technology tools, depending on the age of the students, if you can trust them with all this stuff. That's kind of a judgment call on your end, but just putting the tool in their hands and having them play with the tool, because sometimes students will figure some stuff out that you're like, I didn't even know that was even possible. So just throwing that out there as a suggestion. Let's take a look at the space that we have going on here. Left-hand side is filled with your little navigation bar, shows you everything that you can add inside of this. Your main sections will be text, props, scenes, photos, and voice. And props would be like the images, icons, resources that you could put on the page itself. The scenes would be the background to each one of the pages. On the bottom part of your screen, you can see your page interface, just like slides for PowerPoint. You have a bunch of pages that you can work with. You can easily click on them and make some adjustments. One place that would probably be a good place to make adjustments would be the front cover. Make sure to put those names on there. Make sure to add some kind of title. Don't leave it as click to add title. That's an uninteresting book title. Change the color up to suit the situation. There's a couple of patterns on there as well. Try to keep it real simple, but you can also still add props and things in there if you'd like to. And a little dedication page as well, just like any other book they might have. Other things that I want to point out before jumping into the features itself is on the top right-hand corner. Once you feel like your book is ready, you can click Share with the Public, which will attach a individual link on there. There is collaboration features, which I really feel it's nice. If you click Collaborate, They will have to type in the email. So students will have to like share emails, or you have to have some kind of system that they have to do that. They can't just access whoever is in the class in there. But if they do that, they do have real-time collaboration, which is quite nice, I think. So you could have students, you know, come together as a group, plan it out, build it out, and then present it together. Okay. So let's spend a little bit of time looking at the features, the rest of the time of the showcase, taking a look at the features on the left-hand side over here, just the different stuff you can add. So starting from the top, working my way down, I have text, which they have a couple of text options on here. It's real simple on here, not a whole lot of choices. We got speech bubbles and stuff like that. If you just want to do a plain box, just click big text box, type something in. And you can see in the top of my text box, I have a couple of basic options, you know, adjusting the size, adjusting the font family. We got a couple of those, colors, formatting options, moving it forward and back. So it's like in front of objects or behind objects, depending how you're going to use. But real simple interface that you have on here. You can adjust the size of the text box, or you can click and drag and move it around so it will be at a certain place. So unfortunately, no guides on here, so you'll have to do some cleaning up if in terms of like layout, if your students are unfamiliar how to use the tool. So it can get a little messy, but you know, that can be just something that you help comment on and help guide students through. So that's text. There's a bunch of different kinds that you can do, and throw it in there at a click. Next is props. These are little characters, so you can have symbols on there, like we got the Canadian flag going on here, and you can treat them like objects. You have these little characters. Maybe this is like a storybook character, and they're talking about the whatever is going on with them. If you scroll down to the bottom of props, you can click on more props, and there is a search feature on here. So if I want, I don't know, planet. Yeah, we got planet on there. I can throw that in there. And whenever you select an option from that searchable library, it will show up in the props section. So you can click on that and dump it in there. Moreover, you may have noticed that there is a design characters button, which is really nice. If students want to put in characters for them, you know, they have different skin tone, you can change the hairstyle, we got a bunch of mouths, you can throw glasses on here. So if students, I don't know, want to throw in a character that looks like them, there's some options on here, and you can even click examples to see what other people have come up with, which is great. So at least you got a couple options on there. And whenever you add this character, it's once again dumped into that prop section, and then can put it out there. Okay, scenes, quite simple. It's the background. You just click on it and it makes some adjustments on there. If you don't like the scenes that are here, you can scroll down to where it says more scenes, very much like we did in the props. And you can search for, I don't know, forest. Yeah, plenty of forest. Where else are we going to have these fairyland stories, fairy tale stories in the forest? Ooh, this one's spooky. I like that. Let's do a spooky story. So I can select that, and I got a nice little dark forest with a little road on there, so quite nice. Next is photos. Students can throw their own photos in here. If you've already uploaded some to your account, you can just click on them and you treat them like props or scenes. Here is a prop I have of our Oklahoma School Innovation Summit that we're going to have pretty soon. And so I have that, and I can just throw it up there. And you can put some real life pictures in there, which is nice because then students can make stories about the world around them and their perspective. So just allowing students to add more stuff in there. If they want to add anything, they can just click add your photos and you upload them directly from here. And then finally, voice. You can record your voice on here. I hope that this doesn't freak out while I'm using Zoom. You just click voice, you click record. It will give you a countdown. This is like a one and done type deal. So it's like recording a voicemail. And then when I stop it, I can listen to it. Countdown. This is like a one and done type deal. So it's like recording a voicemail. It's always cool hearing yourself on a recording. Super cool. You can add music and sound effects if you'd like. But once you add that bit of narration on that, it adds that to the interface for the book itself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, I appreciate everyone joining me for this book. I hope this tool resonates with you, or at least feels like it's a tool worthy of sharing with your colleagues. Yeah, so once this book is ready, you can click share, you can click save, depending on if you think the book is done or not, and get a link and share that out. All right, let's spend a little bit of those last moments that I have with you talking about technology integration and sharing tools. So something that I do want you to try to consider, and I try to ask any educators to try to consider this when they're adding technology tools into their classroom, is consider technology integration, how to integrate it. There's lots of ways to answer that question, and I'm going to recommend one of the ways, which is using the technology integration matrix. The idea is that there are 5 characteristics of learning environment, and there's 5 levels of technology integration, and the idea is to assess where you're at with that tool. Might be at the very beginning, the lowest level of technology integration. You try to see if you can take yourself up depending on what type of characteristics you want to focus on, whatever is the most important one to you. The 5 characteristics would be active, collaborative, constructive, authentic, and goal-directed. I'm going to take one of these, collaborative, and try to do an activity which is called Move Up a Level, created by Roy Winkleman. The idea is that I'm going to take this characteristic, collaborative, which means collaborate rather than working individually through this technology tool, and work your way through the different levels of technology integration for each tool. Ideally, you would do it for all of the characteristics, but let's just say collaboration is really important to me in my classroom. So I'm going to think that one through, starting from this the beginning and just working my way through a couple of the levels. So during this time, I invite you to think about what would this tool look like inside of your classroom. And I'm going to do this through the lens of collaboration. So first of which, the first level of technology integration, according to this model, this framework, would be the entry level, which is characterized by passive use of the tool. This is more, the teacher is just merely introducing the tool itself and using it on a surface level. So like I said before, I recommend that you take a look through the library, find some really great examples, and have students read and listen to those books. I think without even getting into it, the library is a great resource by itself. It's books created by students for students on there. And I think that is a great introduction to not teaching books, StoryJumper. Great. The next level of technology integration would be adoption. Once students are starting to become familiar with the tool and what it can be and what it can do, the adoption phase is next, which is characterized by procedural use of the tool. So this is when students are starting to get a little bit more active on here. They're starting to learn how to jump in there, how to create a book, how to add a couple of those features. So the bit in the showcase where I showed you how to add props, scenes, photos, and audio in there, you can model that out for the students. Or you could have them just go in there and play with the book, totally fine. But one of the things that I wasn't able to show in there, but I know as a part of the teacher's guide, is that if you do have a Google Classroom set up, or even if you have just a regular classroom set up, you can do that inside of StoryJumper. Something that you can do is create a book and use it as a template, so students can go in, get their own copy, and make adjustments. Or you could have them all work on the same book, and you can just like assign a page for each student for them to just go in there, play with the book, figure out some of the features. And this step is great because it will highlight what students will struggle with the tool, what students are strong with the tool, and you can maybe even create groups based off of those observations on that. So adoption phase. Once students become comfortable with the tool itself, that's when you start shifting that role a little bit. Instead of teacher being sort of the keeper of the tool, shifting to a facilitator supporting students and helping them make conscious decisions about how the tool is going to be used. So that is the adaptation phase. It's characterized by independent use of the tool here. I highly recommend that you take advantage. So this is where the collaboration comes into play of the real-time collaboration feature that's built into creating these books. So put students in these small groups, maybe 2 to 3 students, have them plan through a storyboard and develop their own book on there. And you're guiding them through the different stuff, asking them questions. Okay, are you, what kind of conflict does this character have? What are some roadblocks they can overcome? Is there going to be other characters supporting them? And so just having them think through those basic steps that need to be a part of their story and help guiding them if they get stuck on something that they want to try to accomplish in the story itself. And then have them publish those books and present it to people. I suggested like a community open house. This feels like a real slam dunk on getting, you know, parents involved, getting community leaders involved on here, and just seeing students create and have themselves attached to this thing that they made, and just having a bit of that pride in the education that they're receiving. And it's just, you know, really nice to share out the fruits of that labor. Okay, I am totally out of time. In fact, I'm going a little bit over time, which I think it's going to be all right for this time. But thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I just want to point out a few things and they'll be done here. The last couple of slides are dedicated to resources. A lot of them I've already mentioned, and some of them I do recommend that you take a look at. In particular, there's this fillable PDF worksheet. They call it the Story Starter Lesson Plan that I think is worth taking a look at, because if you just need some guidance on here, if you're kind of unfamiliar with how to support literacy in your classroom, because I don't think this is just for English teachers. I think this is something that could be applied across the curriculum on here. And this really helps spell out the steps in a nice, clear, clean way. Yeah. I have a page dedicated to technology integration. I always like to have this piece a part of all of my tech talks. And so if you want to expand on that, take a look through any of the resources or reach out to me or Kurt on here. We would love to talk about any of this stuff with you. And then finally, on my last page, huge thank you for anybody that's here. Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate you being here for these Tech Talks, man. I got a link to my evaluation. Just take a few minutes to go through that. Just a few questions on a single page to try to make this as easy as possible so I can get that feedback and make these better. And if you ever want to reach out to us, you can do so through techteam@opsrc.net, or you can do so at any of those social media buttons at the bottom of the screen. And if you want access to any of the Tech Talks that I've done here before, just a real quick reminder that you can do so through opsrc.net/Tech Talks. But for right now, I think that's it for me today. So thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you have a great day.